Hello, my name is James Moore and this is my Broadcast Views presentation. I'll be talking about why you now need a teleprompter and making this a guide to work from home use. So here's my contact information at DePaul University. You can also find me by searching for James Moore and DePaul on search engines like Google. An easy way to remember my name is to take the James from James Bond and the Moore from Roger Moore. If you're wondering, I'm British, my hometowns are Bath and London, but I have lived in Chicago since 1999. I'm part of the city. You have about a 1 in 1,000 chance of seeing my visage gracing the face of the Crown Fountain in Millennium Park. At DePaul, I'm the Director of Online Learning for the Treehouse College of Business. I teach internet marketing classes and I need to finish my dissertation for my doctoral studies soon. Everything you see today is on my website at condor.depol.edu/jmore/UWDTL2021. So last year I encountered a problem. A friend of mine asked me to record a talking head video for an online program he was creating. I created a script to work from, but I could not memorize that script. I attempted to simultaneously look at my webcam and the script. The resulting video was awful. I looked nervous and shifty. I decided then to find a solution that would work at home. So luckily for me, there was a solution. Newsreaders have for years been able to look at a camera and read from a script. And that solution is a teleprompter, also known as an auto cue. So let's take a brief detour into the history of the teleprompter and how they work. Live television blossomed in the US in the 1950s. Whilst there were accomplished actors who could memorize a script, there was a plenitude of on-screen talent that had considerable difficulty remembering their lines. Because remembering your lines is hard. For some, cue cards became the solution, requiring a skilled cue card operator. Television shows like Saturday Night Live still employ this technique. Then in the 1950s, live television started to use in-camera teleprompters that allowed actors to look directly at the television audience as they read their lines. The technology was introduced to the general American population in a 1951 Life article entitled "Ways to End TV Fluffs." The technology uses a mainstay of traditional theatrical special effects known as Pepper's Ghost, where an illuminated figure off stage is reflected on a large piece of glass positioned at 45 degrees to the audience. The audience can see clearly through the glass to actors and scenery on stage, but they can also see a ghostly apparition superimposed on their view. And you may notice similar visual artifacts in glass windows on planes, trains, and automobiles. In terms of how a teleprompter works for home use, there's 4 components. The camera, a shroud, so basically a piece of black cloth that shields the glass from light, a beam splitter, so that's a piece of clear glass held at 45 degrees from the viewer. Then there's a video monitor. The image from the monitor is reflected on the beam splitter. All combined, this allows someone to look directly at a camera and to see a script in the exact same spot. Like the opening crawl to the Star Wars movies, the text rolls up the screen at the speed that the presenter talks. The result is footage where the presenter maintains comfortable eye contact with the audience. So okay, we've got the theory. How do I put this into practice? So my wish list was that this would work on both Mac and PC, preferably with my laptop. That this would work for both live events such as Zoom, Teams or Hangouts, as well as recordings. Crucially, I needed this to display all or any screen content, not just text crawling across the screen. Lastly, I wanted all of this to be affordable. So assembling this for home use required 5 components: the teleprompter, teleprompter software, a teleprompter stand, a camera and a microphone. In phase 1, I tested to see if this was a viable option going forward. So my teleprompter of choice was the Glide Gear TMP50, and this is designed to work with smartphones and small tablets. In use, this displayed a mirror image of whatever I placed on the tablet display. The mirrored text was not something I could comfortably read, so teleprompter software rendered regular text into something I could read on the beam splitter display. But this created a limit for me. I wanted to be able to use any software tool with the teleprompter. I had to look for something beyond regular teleprompter software. My first idea was to use a Windows Surface Pro. Here, the keyboard easily detaches, leaving a powerful tablet. But for this to work, I needed the regular display from the Windows Surface Pro to be mirrored, and then this would look normal to me after being mirrored by the beam splitter display. Sadly, Windows doesn't have this option built into the operating system. However, I found a $40 piece of software that I could use to do this. So UltraMon could flip the Windows display both horizontally and vertically. However, there were two major limitations. The first is that UltraMon places a system load on the Windows operating system, and it lowers the frame rate. Things were noticeably slower on my machine. And then secondarily, UltraMon applies these settings to a secondary display, not the Surface Pro main display. However, I found a workaround. I could use a mini DisplayPort display emulator, otherwise known as a dummy plug, to fool the operating system into thinking a second display was attached. And then I could use scripting to replicate these settings back to the Windows Surface primary display. But I viewed all of this as a dead end, and I decided to go another route. It was way too complicated. Instead, I would use an iPad as the video monitor display. The critical issue here was finding a way to mirror flip the iPad display so it looked like a regular display when reflected in the beam splitter display. To date, I've only found one way of mirror flipping the iPad display. There's a piece of software and hardware called Lunar Display. So it's a combination of hardware. It's a small dongle that connects to either the HDMI, the USB-C, or mini display port on a laptop. And then it's the software that has true teleprompter modes. So I saw this as a viable way forward. The teleprompter needs to be raised to eye level, and I could do this at home via either a tripod or a microphone stand. So tripods take up a significant amount of desktop real estate, so I opted to use a microphone stand. I went with a Gator Frameworks microphone stand, as this had the heaviest base I could find, and a heavy base reduced the likelihood of the teleprompter toppling over by accident. Then I needed to select a camera. So now some prefer to hook a regular digital SLR up to the computer via an HDMI to USB capture card, as this results in a superior image. I went with a regular webcam, however, as this was a simpler solution for me. Using the built-in microphone on my laptop was an option, but an external microphone promised improved audio quality. Here I could go with a headset or a desktop microphone. I opted to go desktop, as a headset made me look too much like I was flying a helicopter in my videos. So I put all these components together. Everything worked. It was a little ugly, but it worked. I was able to record the videos I wanted, reading from presenter notes in Keynote whilst looking directly at the camera. Like many recordings at home, a cat frequently was intrigued by my actions. However, there were improvements I could make. A larger teleprompter would allow me to see content more easily. Being able to quickly adjust the height and placement of the teleprompter would increase my comfort. Crucially, I needed to be able to switch off any status lights on my webcam, as these shone through the beam splitter display. I needed to be able to zoom in and out of the webcam image, cropping any unnecessary content. Lastly, using a wired connection from my laptop to my iPad rather than connecting wirelessly was preferable to avoid network congestion. And this is what I mean by webcam status lights. The blue lights on this Zoom webcam are a helpful way to indicate that the webcam is on, but illumination behind the beam splitter display prevents the teleprompter from showing a clean image for me to read from. So phase 2 was where I made improvements. I went with the larger Glide Gear TM100 teleprompter. This allowed me to use larger iPads. I placed dual monitor arms on my desktop. I could easily adjust the height and placement of both my laptop and my teleprompter. The monitor arms resulted in more of my desktop being clear of obstructions and things that I could bump into. I upgraded to the Logitech Brio webcam. Here, I had more control of the image and webcam settings. The Brio also has a 4K sensor, so cropping the image didn't unduly impact final video quality. So what did the final setup look like? Not as ugly as before, and far more usable. However, there were extra items that I went with that vastly improved both my comfort and the quality of my live and recorded sessions. To look good on camera, you'll want soft lighting in front of you. Professionals invest in desktop lighting to improve their presence on camera. In a studio, you'd use the traditional 3-part lighting system with backlight, key light, fill light, and the presenter in the middle. So at home, I went with 2 Elgato key lights on my desktop. These allowed me to adjust both color temperature and brightness. Sharing content in Zoom can be a bit of a pain, introducing a delay as I switch between screen shared content. The app allowed me studio-like controls to adjust shared content and effects simply and quickly in both live and pre-recorded sessions. You may look great on camera, but your environment may not look as good. So you'll also want to be careful about items in the background that may betray your privacy. Or it could be that someone lives with you who has a medical condition, and you may inadvertently show prescription drugs in the background to your Zoom participants. So the same advice goes for books, posters, alcohol, and other recreational items that you may be happy to display at home normally, but perhaps less happy to display in more formal environments, particularly since your audience can easily record Zoom sessions for posterity. So I went with an Elgato collapsible chroma key panel to provide privacy and to improve the quality of my virtual backgrounds. Controlling lights, multimedia, and system settings during live sessions could be difficult at times. So I used an Elgato Stream Deck to assemble all the controls I'd be using in one easy-to-find location. Lastly, focusing on the teleprompter in front of me sometimes resulted in my losing track of time. A large clock within easy view prevented me from missing some of my cues. So was it worth the effort? Well, for me, it was. The improvement in overall quality and efficiency was most noticeable in pre-recorded videos I created. Being able to look at the camera whilst following my presenter notes in PowerPoint and Keynote was a definite boon. The improvements were not as noticeable perhaps in live sessions. However, I did feel that I was making direct eye contact with my virtual audience, and this to me was worth the effort. So I hope this video has been of use to you. My handouts, resources and links can be found on my website at condor.depaul.edu/jmore/UWDTL 2021.